Okay, as kids transition, I'm going to talk to the older people in the room for just a moment and just recap some things, and we're going to jump into talking about hospitality. Now, we've been in a series called Relationships on the Rocks, and we're looking at different relationships in the book of Genesis. A lot of these are not so great. There are problems, but today we're going to look at a good thing. Abraham is a mixture of good and bad, and we're going to see one of his good points today. We're going to be challenged by that. So last week, again, we discussed how Lot separated from Abram to serve himself. Do you remember that picture I showed you of the lush Jordan River Valley? Green and palm trees and water everywhere. And that was what Lot chose for himself. Abram and Lot, they have so many riches, and they're kind of almost held back by their riches. They don't have room, they don't have resources. Their relationship has become full of conflict and rivalry, and they can't even live in unity. And so Abram humbles himself and says, Lot, why don't you pick your choice of directions to go? And he chooses the best for himself. And Abram is okay with that. He settles for something that's less. He's living in the high desert like we're living in here. And so resources are a little more scarce, but he has room and he doesn't have conflict in his life anymore. And so we learned a lot from Lot about selfishness and a lot from Abram about serving other people and putting other people first last week. So we see some good examples and some bad examples in our story. This week is more on the positive side, and I feel like it's important to balance things we're learning, the positive and the negative, right? We need some encouragement, and maybe this issue of hospitality will give us some ideas. Our family loves hospitality. One of the ways that we do this, we have different traditions every year of ways we try to incorporate hospitality into our lives. One of the things we do is we host a big Halloween party at our house on October 31st. The reason why is because we live in a neighborhood in Laverkin that's still fairly safe, where lots of kids still go around from door to door to get candy on Halloween. And so in our cul-de-sac, ourselves and sometimes our neighbors will set up some hot dogs and some chili and some drinks and chips and get people together. And so we have a party in the front yard, and then some parents take kids around trick-or-treating from house to house. Other parents stay back at the house and visit, and then when everyone returns, kids sit on the floor and trade candy with each other. You know, I'll give you this if you give me that kind of thing. They're favorites. We love having people over, sometimes for game nights or other kinds of activities, but we've realized hospitality is a great way to get to know people, and it's really a great way to show people that they're valuable. As we're going to learn today, hospitality is even a form of worship. I don't know if you've ever thought of hospitality in that light, but Abraham is going to show us that that is the case. That's the kids' version, so now we'll get into the grown-up version here, and I'll give you all the verses and just a few things to ponder today. So a couple of things about hospitality. Abraham, his goal, his objective here is to provide refreshment to these visitors. And again, he's not expecting them. Many times you're expecting people who come over to your home. But this is an even, more challenging case maybe. It's more spontaneous. Here's what happens. It says, the Lord appeared to Abraham at the Oaks of Mamre, this location close to where he has already built an altar to worship the Lord, close to the city of Hebron, which we talked about last week, in the high desert, while he was sitting at the entrance of his tent during the heat of the day. Now that phrase, during the heat of the day, it might not ring a bell, but there was another phrase earlier in Genesis, during the cool of the day. If you remember back in the first couple of chapters, that's the time of day that God showed up with Adam and Eve. So during the cool of the day, he walked among them. And now he's in the heat of the day, but he's still among people. It says he looked up and he saw 3 men standing near him. So Abram is surprised by these people. And I just want to tell you, if you didn't catch this, the language that's going to be used and that is used in this passage, it's meant to point us back to the Garden of Eden and actually forward to the tabernacle, because this is more than just serving a meal to a group of visitors. Again, this is a worship experience, and the language directs us toward that. God appears at this time of day. He's walking among the humans. He's by a tree, right? Garden of Eden kind of imagery. He's with some angels, right? And then Abraham meets with God at a tent near an altar. And when we think about the tabernacle and later the temple in the Old Testament, what a normal place for God to meet with humans, at a tent near an altar. And so all these images are supposed to be conjured up so that we realize our hospitality is actually an act of worship. Continues, it says, when he saw them, he ran from the entrance of his tent to meet them, and he bowed to the ground. This would be a strange way for you to greet your guests, probably in our day and our culture. And he said, my Lord, if I found favor with you, please don't go on past your servant. He is eager for these people to come and experience his hospitality, and he honors them. He does some things culturally to show honor to them. He runs to meet them, and he bows down before them. Running was kind of undignified. It might be undignified if you went running out of your house and grabbed a hold of somebody at the car door, and gave them a hug, right? Kind of undignified. And it was that way in that culture. And he bows low to the ground, which is a gesture of respect. And these friends, they know they are not imposing. This man is excited to see them. Do we feel like people who surprise us or people who come over are there to impose on us? Or are we open? Are we appreciative? Are we valuing those people? I put a couple of little thoughts here together, points of thoughts and questions. How can you make your guests feel honored when they show up? Maybe it's planned, maybe it's unplanned. Can you think of anything? I like to do a little Q&A with you all. Yes? Feed them, okay. Yeah. We'll get to that more. Any other? What?
Chocolates on their bed.
Oh my goodness. I'm coming to stay with you guys. Chocolates on their bed. Yeah, I would feel honored if I was showing up to stay at someone's house. I mean, I'm just happy to have the bed, right? But chocolates, wow, yeah.
A handshake and hello to the female.
Okay, handshake and hello. Nice greeting makes people feel honored. I think a warm greeting at the door, people realize, oh, you care. Maybe you let them know, oh, I really appreciate you. I'm so glad that you're here. Maybe it's something about someone's preferences. You know that somebody likes something, and so you have a beverage that they enjoy, or chocolates, like you said, that they enjoy, or a game to play that you know that they enjoy, and you put some intentionality into it, but you know their preferences. Maybe you get your food prepared in advance so they don't have to just sit and watch you cook for the next 25 or 30 minutes. You can actually focus on them. Maybe you refill drinks or try to point the conversation toward them instead of just talking about yourself. These are all ways we can make people feel honored. Let's continue on. It says, let a little water be brought that you may wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. And so he's going into the next step of hospitality kind of here. He says, I'll bring a bit of bread so that you may strengthen yourselves. And so he wants to provide a comfortable environment and a comfortable atmosphere. He provides some water. Here, come over here and rest because you've been on a journey. We've got this nice tree here, so make sure you sit in the shade. And here's a snack. I'm going to bring some bread for you so that you can refresh yourselves. And maybe we can do things to make our guests feel comfortable as well. Do you have any thoughts on that? Maybe something that you do or that we could do to make people feel more comfortable coming into our home. Any thoughts on that?
Invite them to dinner with you.
Okay, invite them to dinner. Right, let's sit down and take some time together. Don't just come in, but, stay for a while, have a meal.
Make yourself at home.
Make yourself at home, yeah. So we have this policy with our neighborhood kids, right? And sometimes it works against us because they know. They know if they're there, if there's something in the fridge or something in the pantry. I mean, they normally ask. Sometimes they don't. They just feel right at home. If there's food being served, they know. That's for me too. Yeah.
Sitting around the table or sitting around the kitchen area.
Yeah, just congregating around. Maybe here's a place to sit. Here, you sit here. Make yourself at home, right? Maybe it's something about, again, we know a little bit about them ahead of time. Maybe we ask about somebody's food preferences or allergies. Just so you know, when you're going to come over, but is there anything you're allergic to? Or how can we cater to you? Do you have any preferences this way? Maybe it's just tidying up a little bit. If it's not, totally unexpected, we just clean the house a little bit. That's kind of motivational for us to clean our houses when we know people are coming over, right? Maybe it's some ambiance. There's a candle or there's some music in the background or a throw blanket that people can have in the colder months of the year, even though we don't really have those too often here. Maybe it's, hey, would you like something to drink when you come in the room? Or you introduce them to other guests who are in the room, give them a quick tour of your house. Another thing you could do is instead of, like when you serve people, serve family style. Bring all the food to the table or all the food to the countertop so that there's interaction with people. Maybe it's a game together to help people get to know each other, to break the ice, just to get a little more social, or a comfy, pillow on the couch, or a comfy place to sit. All those are ways that we can bring comfort in to people who come to our homes as well. He says, this is why you've passed your servant's way. Later you can continue on. Yes, they replied, do as you have said. That first phrase, really interesting. This is why you've passed your servant's way. What did it say before that? I'm going to bring some bread here so you can be strengthened. Abram realizes this is a divine appointment here. This isn't just accidental. Like, God wanted you to come here so you can have your needs met. You're not an inconvenience. Like, God is orchestrating this opportunity for hospitality. And maybe that's a good way for us to look at hospitality too. God is behind this. People are not inconveniences. So Abram hurried into the tent and said to Sarah, quick, knead 3 measures of fine flour and make bread. Abraham ran to the herd and got a tender, choice calf. He gave it to a young man who hurried to prepare it. These words, fine flour and calf, these are words that are connected with offerings and sacrifices later on in Israel's story. And so, again, just as this scene brought us back to the Garden of Eden and forward to the tabernacle, these places of worship, even the things that are being offered and given are things that are offered and worship later on in Israel's history past this point. And so this is to show us, from Abraham's point of view, hospitality is actually an act of worship before God. God is orchestrating this. It's a divine opportunity that he's going to not pass up because he wants to worship God in this way. Never really viewed hospitality like that before. Then Abraham took curds or cheese and milk as well as the calf that he had prepared and set them before the men. So this is good food. What did he promise to give them in the beginning? Do you remember what he said he'd give them under the tree? Bread, right? I would say this is an upgrade, right? It's not bread. It's a tender piece of meat, right? And cheese and milk, not just water, but bread. Or not just bread, but all these things, not just water, but milk. And so he gives them an abundance of good food, which is a little bit of a taste of Eden, right? And that's what he's trying to do. On another level, hospitality says, how can I bring a taste of the ideal, a little bit of taste of Eden or paradise, How can I bring that into someone else's life and experience? And so he wants to bring abundance. We all have different resources. Some of us can afford to be a little more lavish than others. And the Bible also balances giving. It says, give of what you have, not what you don't have. And so we don't need to, on the other hand, think that we need to throw this lavish feast in order to invite someone over to our home. Maybe it's hot dogs and chips. That's what we have. But that's just as valid of an expression of hospitality. We use what we have, again, to show the importance and the value of other people, to give them a taste of Eden and to worship God through inviting people into our lives. But he provides an abundance, and he gets other people involved. His wife is involved. A young man in his house is involved. And sometimes when we have people over to our home, we get our kids involved in the preparation, in the cooking, in the cleaning. We're going to have our friends over, and so we need to get involved together. It says he served them as they ate under the tree. And so he's not just, ignoring them, but he's actively serving them. Yes?
I just wanted to say, we actually had it happen earlier this last month. Friends that we haven't seen in a very long time came, dropped by.
Really? That's
We
wonderful.
had lunch, but I think they were probably hungry. The only thing I
Yeah.
really had to offer them were smoothies.
That's great. So,
They were in the refrigerator.
yeah, so Shirley said she had some friends drop by unexpectedly. She said at the time the only thing they had to offer them were smoothies, but that works great, right? It's very refreshing, So you can be creative sometimes, but he serves and he tends to their needs. I want to close this morning by talking about the other point of view. When you're the person coming over for the visit, right? Not the person providing the hospitality, but the person receiving it. Let's talk about reciprocation. One thing that we have realized over time is our true friends, our best friends, are friends where the relationship goes both ways, right? They're contributing into our lives. We're contributing into their lives. recently we've been doing a lot of home renovation projects, and we have friends who have been helping us in different aspects. Have a friend who's an electrician, and a friend who's a plumber, and a friend who installs cabinets. And they've graciously come in to help us, but it's because we have this reciprocal friendship. Friend who helped us install tile. And because we have this ongoing relationship where we're pouring into them and they're pouring into us, it's very natural. When we need help, they show up. When they need help, we show up. And that's really kind of the way that we should look at hospitality. How can we be a blessing to the people who are a blessing to us? In fact, these guests, when they show up, one of the things they say is, "Where's your wife, Sarah?" They ask him. "She's there in the tent," he answered. The Lord said, "I will certainly come back to you in about a year's time, and your wife, Sarah, will have a son." Now, background on the story. 1, they're both very old, far beyond childbearing years. 2, they've never been able to have kids. So this is a huge blessing. They come, and I think the reason why they show up is to convey this message. They intend to be a blessing before they ever show up, right? And Abraham just extends hospitality. And so maybe when we come over to someone's house, we should be intentional and think, they've invited me to experience hospitality, but how can I be a blessing to them? How can I reciprocate in some way? It says, now Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent behind them. Abraham and Sarah were old and getting on in years. Sarah had passed the age of childbearing. This is those details. So she laughed to herself. After I'm worn out and my Lord is old, will I have delight, is what she says. But the word she uses, it's the word Eden in Hebrew, right? It's the same word. Am I going to experience a taste of Eden even though I'm old? And she's about 89 years old at this point, so she's up there. This is an impossible thing, humanly speaking. And so they know these things, but they intentionally bring a gift. In this case, it's good news that's going to cause delight. And so maybe when we think about blessing people who are blessing us, we should think about, in some way, bringing something that will cause them to experience delight. A little taste of Eden coming from both ways, right, with hospitality. I want to close out on this. How can we contribute or reciprocate? Maybe people invite us over, and we know. What kinds of things might we have in mind, ways to contribute or ways to reciprocate so that they're not carrying the whole load? What do you think?
Potluck.
What?
Do a potluck.
Potluck. Okay, so we bring something to contribute. Yeah, when we have taco nights at our home, oftentimes people say, well, what can we bring? Well, chips and salsa or cheese, onions, black beans, bring something to contribute. Sure. Any other thoughts? Oh, there we go. Help clean up after. That's kind, isn't it? When you have 15 people over, for a big holiday meal and everybody's like, thank you. And then you look at your kitchen and it's like a bomb went off everywhere. Like, well, a long time ago, I was a youth pastor, and I had teenagers over frequently, and I had a couple of roommates who didn't do dishes at that point in time in their lives. And so oftentimes, everybody would exit, and I'm like, well, there's my next hour and a half standing at the sink washing dishes. So that's a huge thing, right? I see some of you do that after our potlucks on Sunday mornings here. Any other thoughts? Here's some other ideas. Maybe you bring a small gift. Maybe it's something that they would like or they would appreciate. Their favorite coffee, or a small book, or a plant, or chocolates. Again, like you said, maybe it's offering to contribute something for the meal. Maybe it's just a sincere compliment, or telling someone that you really appreciate what they've done and drawing attention to that. Maybe you send a thank you note afterwards. Yes?
Prayer before the meal.
Offer prayer before the meal? Sure, yeah. Pray God's blessing over them, or thank God for them. Or maybe you reciprocate by inviting them over. Thanks for having us. We'd love to have you. Let's put something on the calendar. That way, it's, again, not falling on one person, but it's a reciprocal relationship, and it just keeps snowballing from there. So here's the final thought. Hospitality is an act of worship that provides a taste of Eden. It's a little more important than you might have thought before you walked in today. Abraham isn't always a good example for us, but in this way, he's quite, a challenging role model in the area of hospitality. Let's pray together.